How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On The Ball. Welcome back to another review of the Premier League. Review of Min and Sim's predictions. 286 to Sim, 313 to myself. 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. And the star man, once you pick that man, you cannot pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist, and a lot of 5-pointers this week. Starting off at Goodison Park, 1-1 Everton against Arsenal. We both went for 1-1. Big fat 5-pointers all round. And,
you love the Arsenal draw. You love the Arsenal draw.
Yeah, I've actually picked up quite a few 5 points with Arsenal draws this season. But yeah, I mean, Everton at home, we knew there's a tough nut to crack, and Arsenal took the lead, and you thought maybe Arsenal were going to go on to 3 points, but yeah, I mean, the big talking point of the game was the penalty, wasn't it?
Controversial decision
towards when in the second half, and I mean, how can they give a penalty for that? I mean, I thought it was ridiculous.
Why? Obviously, VAR had a look at it and didn't overturn it. Do you think the VAR should have overturned it?
In an ideal world, yes. I think they should have overturned it because I think it was just a stupid decision. Both players are grappling with each other. Lewis Skelly kind of loses his footing a little bit because of the grappling, and the other player goes down. It was just a all bunch of nonsense.
I mean, I think a lot of people, there's been a whole big hullabaloo about it, but
there always is for every Arsenal decision.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was a harsh decision, but I did think there was one angle that did show that Lewis Skelly does kind of fall on Harrison's leg while he's like trailing back. I think from the other angles, it doesn't look like there's as much contact, but there was one angle. It looks like when Lewis Skelly was falling, he kind of lands on Harrison's leg.
I just feel like they're both grappling with each other and they're both like causing each other to fall kind of thing. That's what I think it is. So I just think like, just get on with the game.
Yeah, I think it was a harsh decision, probably a wrong decision. But I also feel like VAR, I like that in those decisions there's a high bar for intervention. And I think in that situation, obviously, if you're given against Spurs, I'll be fuming and I want VAR to be intervening. But I also feel like, was it a clear and obvious error given that there was an angle where Lewis Skelly does kind of fall onto Harrison and he goes over? I think it's a soft one for sure. I think Everton got lucky. But I think there's probably just about not enough of VAR to enter.
But do you not think he falls on Harrison because Harrison is pulling him back?
I think they're grappling with each other, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So if he falls on Harrison because they're grappling with each other, it's not really a foul.
No, but he does fall on him. And he does, I think Harrison does go over because Lewis Skelly falls on his leg.
And Skelly only falls because Harrison is grappling with him.
Well, they're grappling with each other, but it doesn't mean you can just trip him up.
I think they basically made each other fall. So, I mean, you could look at it one way and give it as a Lewis Skelly foul. You can look at it another way, give it a Harrison foul. I don't think...
I think on that point, it was 50 or 60 or one, half a dozen, whatever it is, 6 or one, half a dozen of the other. I think on that stage. But what did happen for sure is when Lewis Skelly fell over, from one angle anyway, from what I saw, Lewis Skelly did fall onto Harrison's leg, forcing him to trip up. So I think from that basis, there's just about enough for VAR not to give a penalty, but I also feel like it shouldn't have been given in the first place. So
never have been given
I think it's not a penalty. It's a harsh decision, but I can understand why VAR didn't intervene.
Yeah, in my opinion, they should have. But anyway, the game did finish 1-1. Good defensive display from Everton. Arsenal, bit toothless again, had to bring on the big guns at half-time, resting them for Europe in the midweek, Real Madrid tonight, and didn't make too much of an impact.
No, and it was, again, another performance which shows Arsenal's lack of cutting edge, which ever since Havertz got injured a few month ago or so has been the case for most games. I know the odd game they did score 7 against PSV and things like that, but that's been a massive outlier clearly in their current form. They're really struggling to regularly score goals, and I think they're going to have a tough job against Real Madrid, against Carlo Ancelotti's Real Madrid with the star power they have. They're all going to be available, it looks like, for the game tonight. So it's going to be interesting how Arsenal kind of combat that. Gabriel now injured as well, which happened last week. It's going to be a tall order for Arsenal to get through that tie. In terms of the league, and I know we'll get into Liverpool later, they lost, but 11 points behind. I mean, again, we know that they're not going to be winning the league, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to drop more points between now and the end of the season.
I would say, though, if Arsenal would have taken 3 points today on the weekend, the conversations start coming back again.
Maybe. Still 9 points.
I know, but you look at the way Liverpool are playing. I mean, they're not I mean, they have got wins recently, but no convincing displays recently for Liverpool. They lost this weekend, which we'll get to a bit later, and you wouldn't bet against them losing a couple more games before the end of the season.
Yeah, a couple. They're going to need to lose 4.
Yeah, and I wouldn't bet against it.
I would. 4 losses is a bit much. They need
the
what?
way they're playing.
They need 4 wins.
Yeah.
That will happen.
But on top of those, you need Arsenal to win all those games.
And that's
the sticking point for me. I don't think Arsenal do that. But anyway, let's move on to the derby, which was Crystal Palace against Brighton. It finished 2-1 to Palace. Sim went for 3-1. I went for 1-1, and Sim gets a point for this one. And yeah, I felt for Brighton a little bit, particularly in that first half. I thought they were the better side. Mateta puts Palace up 1-0 up very early in the game.
Great goal.
Yeah, really good goal. And Danny Welbeck equalises after half an hour. Munoz obviously gets the winner just after the break, and then the game just transcended into absolute chaos, didn't it? It was a proper derby feel, this one.
3 red cards.
Yeah, 3 red cards on the day, and Ketia, Van Hecke and Mark Guehi all getting sent off. This game just had a proper derby feel to it, didn't it?
Yeah, those last 20 minutes were absolute bonkers, and people were getting sent off left, right, and centre. And who says these teams don't really hate each other? There's clearly a lot of animosity there, and I think you could see the crowd was so up for it. That period where Palace were down to 9 men and just literally battening down the hatches and putting that wall in front of their goal was a sight to behold. Brighton just struggling to break him down. It was a brilliant game, and what a win for Palace in the derby. Winning that game, they're on unbelievable form, and it carries on. What a job Glasner is doing at the moment with Crystal Palace. And Brighton, a bit frustrating because they're on great form, and now it's, I think, 2 losses in a row for them. So slightly frustrating, and 3 games out win where it looked like they were in touching distance of that top 4, and now there's been a slight drop off. So they'll be a bit frustrated with that. But Ollie Glasner, the form they've been on since December has been absolutely phenomenal.
I wouldn't bet against Palace having a top half finish now. They're 4 points behind Brighton with a game in hand. So it's getting really close there between Palace and Brighton. And Brighton have been miles ahead pretty much all season. So, yeah, massive credit to Glasner. But I thought Brighton created some really good chances in this game and maybe should have scored more than 1 goal.
Yeah, they'll be disappointed, especially when they had, facing 9 men and even 10 men. I think there was a big chunk of stoppage time, and they still had a man advantage, even though they had a man sent off, and they couldn't really take advantage of that. So they'll be frustrating. But Palace, 2 points behind Bournemouth now with a game in hand. So they've really turned things around.
Yeah, and that's the double for Crystal Palace over Brighton this season as well. So Brighton fans must be absolutely seething this week. Next up is Ipswich against Wolves. Sim went for 1-1. I went for 2-1 to Wolves. It looked like Sim was on his way to a 5-pointer, but Wolves managed to score right at the death to, with 5 minutes to go, to overturn the 1-0 deficit that Ipswich, put themselves in the lead quite early on with Liam Delap.
What's funny is that goal was offside, but because of the the tolerance level, they kept the goal stood.
I didn't see the goal, to be honest, but Liam Delap carrying on his unbelievable season. He is definitely on for a big move in the summer. 40 million release clause if Ipswich go down, which is going to perk the ears of a lot of big clubs. Surely the likes of Tottenham, Chelsea, these kind of clubs are going to be majorly interested in him.
I think the whole Premier League's going to be looking at him, to be honest. And it's all about selling him a project, selling him somewhere where he's guaranteed to play. He can really make a name for himself, and a team he can kind of feel like, first of all, can definitely stay in the Premier League beyond. And I think he's got big things ahead of him. I'm sure England call-ups is what he's aiming towards as well. I'm sure that's on the horizon for him. This guy is a talented youngster who's got an unbelievable physical profile, so strong, but also when he gets into those final third kind of positions, the guy has an absolute hammer of a shot as well on both feet. Unbelievable kind of shooting technique. I think he's bound for a really good Premier League move. I don't know if the top teams are going to go for him, like the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool and City, but I think anyone below that pretty much, I think, will be looking at him and thinking this guy could start up front for us.
Absolutely, but Wolves getting the win, overturning the 1-0 deficit, like I said, that puts it beyond all kind of doubt now, possible doubt. 12 points above Ipswich. Ipswich needed to win in this game if they had any sort of fighting hope to stay in this division.
And it was frustrating. I was watching some of it, and Ipswich took the lead and the crowd were really up for it, and all of a sudden you could see a bit of belief flowing through them, but it was as if as soon as they got the goal, it was like they panicked a bit. It was like, okay, we've got this goal, we're 1-0 up, and we just have to hang on for love nor money
Got
into
the
this
goal after
result.
16 minutes.
Yeah, they got the goal early, and they were like, we need to hang on to this goal, and they just basically retreated and played low block and tried to see out the result, and that was their undoing, because I thought they started so well. The first half, they were really on top and playing really well, and then they kind of, I feel like maybe the pressure of being in the lead and having that result to hang on to really got to in that second half. They completely kind of just capitulated. I think fear overtook them, and that was their undoing. They just allowed Wolves to just get way too much kind of encouragement, and Wolves kind of had them penned back for that second half. And when they got the first goal, it was kind of like once Wolves equalised, that was like a dagger to the heart to them in terms of trying to hold on to that result. And then obviously Ipswich kind of knowing a draw is not good enough, they need to get the result. Wolves kind of just put the game to bed, and I think that'll be that. And that's 3 wins in a row for Wolves, which will be the difference here, and that will keep him up. And I think that will be the final nail in the coffin. If they would have won it, could have cut the gap to 6 points, and all of a sudden you're thinking, is there an outside chance? But that win. I think that will be that, and pretty much they'll be down very shortly.
Yeah, not only is it 3 wins in a row, it's 4 games unbeaten for Wolves, and every single one of those games played without Cunha as well, because they had to wait a long time before getting a win without Cunha. Now they've got 3 in a row.
Yeah, fantastic. Now he's back, just in time for Spurs, of course.
Strand Larson has been
really
unbelievable.
stepped up.
Yeah.
Do you reckon he could be on the move in the summer, or do you think he'll stay another season?
I think he'll stay. I don't think they'll let Strand Larson and Cunha leave in the same summer. I think Cunha's nailed on to leave this summer. I think Strand Larson will be the main man for them. And if he carries on this good form next season, has another good season, then I think he could be on the move.
Yeah, what I like about him is he's a big guy, really physically kind of imposing, but also no slouch. He can run in behind. He's got really brilliant finish. He's quite mobile as well. So I think a lot of teams are going to be looking at him.
Yeah. Let's go to the London Stadium. West Ham 2, Bournemouth 2, and we both went for 2-2 as well. So 5 pointers for both of us here. End-to-end game of football, chances at both ends. Bournemouth still can't get that win. West Ham still can't seem to get a win. And I think it was obvious this game was going to finish in a draw. Evan Nilsson carrying on his stunning form since being back from injury. Fulkrug scoring with his pretty much his first touch after coming off the pitch with a lovely ball from James Ward-Prowse. Yeah, bullet header. Bowen carrying on his great form as well. And then Evan Nilsson again. Evan Nilsson, since he's been back from injury, he's been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he's on 9 Premier League goals now, so he's in really good form. But Bournemouth just have this tendency of starting really well, taking the lead, and then giving up the lead. I think they're top of the league this season for points lost from winning positions, and I think on the weekend there was more evidence of that. Had a brilliant first half, got the goal, and you're thinking, okay, this is going to be an easy game for Bournemouth because they were completely in control, and they just let the game slip away from them. And it's a common theme for Bournemouth and Iraola, especially in the second half of the season, where they've had control of games, they're looking brilliant, and all of a sudden the game just gets away from them, and this kind of, or nearly happened. They ended up getting the draw, but within 5 minutes they were 2-1 down in this game, and out of nowhere, West Ham were not in this game at all. Were not playing well, and out of nowhere they found themselves 2-1 up, and all of a sudden they were the ones in the ascendancy. Fair play to Bournemouth for battling back, but their poor form in terms of the results wise, it does continue here, and they're in danger of dropping out of the top half. They're only 3 points from 12th now here with Brentford. So after what, look, even a mid-table finish, you would say, is not a bad finish for a team like Bournemouth. Yeah, and despite how they're playing, where they were, and you look at their team now. I guess you can recontextualize how good their team is, but they do have a good team there. So look, Iraola has built it, and he's got them playing the way they do. But if they finish bottom half from where they were, that'll be massively disappointing, I think.
It will, but for a club like Bournemouth to finish around mid-table in the Premier League and to carry on building on the team that he has, I think it'll be brilliant. But the problem Bournemouth have is that this summer could be a sliding doors moment for a lot of the players that they do have. Dean Hyson, who's been so good for them, he could be on the move. Semenyo, there's rumours that he could be out the door as well. So when you're a club like Bournemouth and the size of that, a good season that these players have, they will be looking to go to a top 6, top 4 club, play in the Champions League that, they fully have the quality to do so. So if they do lose these players, I do fear for Bournemouth and potentially Iraola next season. Yeah,
now, there is a fear, I guess, if Iraola, because I think he ended up finishing around, what did he finish last season? Around 13th or 12th. So if he finishes there again, I know, look, to be fair, he's done brilliant in terms of where he took them over from, and then what he's like made them into a solid Premier League team where they were kind of battling relegation. It even looked like under Gary O'Neill they just about stayed up by the skin of their teeth, and he's taken that team and made them a really good mid-table team. But I guess for a manager like Iraola, will he start to wonder whether he's hit a ceiling in kind of this kind of position?
They haven't won in the Premier League since mid-February.
Yeah, that's just really surprising. And I guess a frustrating thing for Bournemouth fans is the amount of games they've had control of and just given it up in this period where if they were to hang on to a few more points, they'd be right in the mix for that top 4 race.
I feel like with Bournemouth now, I think because of their intense style, a bit similar to Spurs in terms of stylistically, I feel like they've just run out of steam a bit at this point of the season with a small squad as well.
Yeah, I think as well, the way they play when they drop off a bit physically, they don't really rely on controlling games. So without control, and then you drop off a bit with how your intensity, all of a sudden teams get in on you, and I think that's what they're finding at the moment.
Bit similar to like Spurs in the early years of Poch, when we used to just fall off completely towards the end of the season just because we had nothing left of the tank. I feel like it's a bit similar here. But their next 2 games though, big games that they've got in terms of where they could finish in the league. They got Fulham and Crystal Palace. So if they can start to get wins on the board in these 2 games, and that will kind of like confirm top half. Well, not confirm, but big step towards a big top half finish.
For who? Fulham and Palace?
Yeah.
Big games, yeah, very big games.
Next up, we're going to go to Villa Park. Villa 2, Nottingham Forest 1. We both went for 1-1 here. But I mean, that scoreline prediction was out the door after 15 minutes as Villa just completely started this game on fire, didn't they? 2 goals in the opening 15 minutes. And that pretty much just throws Nottingham Forest game plan completely out the window. And Forest just couldn't find a way back in the game. I mean, they got 1 goal back, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, really good start from Aston Villa. Forest have this tendency on the odd away game to just kind of fall apart a bit quite early. And I remember having to get against Bournemouth, happened against Man City, and it happened in this game, just 2-0 down within a blink of an eye. Really bright start from Aston Villa, who also have this kind of propensity to hit teams very quickly with a couple of goals. And Rodgers and Marlon, fantastic kind of start to the game. I did feel like then they kind of retreated. They did allow Forest back into the game a bit. Obviously, Jota got the goal. But then I actually thought for the last half an hour or so, they played a really smart kind of counter-attacking game. Rashford came on. He'll be a bit annoyed. He didn't probably get on the score sheet with some of the chances he had when he came on. And obviously, Forest did put them under a bit of pressure. I think Murillo hit the bar with a really good effort from 30 yards. But other than that, they didn't offer enough to kind of get back in the game. And I think Villa deserved the victory. Really, really good result for them. And they're on unbelievable form, to be fair to them. Obviously, massive game against PSG coming up in the Champions League. But this is usually the time Unai Emery teams usually falter, and they seem to be getting a second wind. Maybe that January's really helped them.
Lucky for them, in between the PSG games, they play Southampton, because otherwise I would have predicted a loss for them. But I mean, this Villa team surely cannot lose to Southampton in midweek. But it was interesting because Villa rested quite a few players, didn't they, for this game, and didn't affect them at all.
No, I think the January transfer window is, really, Marlon are getting a goal this time.
They won the transfer window.
They've done brilliantly and really given them that ability to rotate in the Premier League and keep up some sort of standards. So really interesting how their last kind of 7 games go. If they go out to PSG, I think they've got a great chance of top 4. If they go through and they stay in the Champions League, I still think they got a good chance. But obviously, whether they'll be distracted or not, we'll have to see.
I can't see them going through against this PSG side. They look incredible.
But Emery really is just so good in European. I guess not necessarily the Champions League, more Europa League, but he is a very smart coach in these knockout games. He always gets far. And he's won so many of them. Yeah, but he usually gets to a semis or a final. Even with Villarreal, he got to a Champions League semi-final.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just looking at this PSG side, the way they're playing at the moment. They've already won their league. I mean...
Unbeaten, isn't it?
Unbeaten. Luis Enrique has got this team playing like dynamite. The best PSG team that I've seen in a very, very long time. Young, fresh, energetic. I just don't think Villa are going to have the quality to deal with them, to be honest.
Look, PSG are massive favourites, but if it wasn't for Unai, I would say they got no chance. But I think Unai does give them a bit of a chance.
All right, let's move on to the West London derby. Brentford 0, Chelsea 0. Sim went for 3-2 to Chelsea. I went for 2-1 to Brentford, but it was a draw. I mean, there were chances at either end. Both teams could have gotten the score sheet multiple times, but nobody took their chances, and I think that was the story of the game.
Yeah, disappointing kind of game and disappointing performance and result for Chelsea, I think I would say. Way at Brentford, it's in the height of their top 4 battle. Considering Newcastle won, they got a bit lucky. The Man City drew, Villa winning, so it's really couldn't get much tighter in that top 4 race. Currently 2 points away from 7th, but still in 4th for the moment. So they're clinging on to it. They do have, I think, Ipswich coming up, so that would be a good time to play them. But they do also have a really hard run in Chelsea apart from that. So they kind of needed a result in this one and didn't get it, so that would be frustrating. I think Brentford, they'll probably take it. It's not the draw or home to Chelsea. But when the last time Chelsea won away from home was?
Spurs, probably.
It was Spurs in December.
Everything is Spurs. The last time Leicester won, Spurs. The last time anyone picking up points, Spurs.
But they haven't won away from home since mid-December.
That's mad, isn't it? Mad. When are people going to have serious questions about Maresca's job?
I see a lot of Chelsea fans having serious questions. I've seen a few people on TikTok saying they're Maresca out, no one's improving, they've had enough. But reality is they're 4th, and as long as he stays there, I think he's safe.
Yeah, I think it's the home form, isn't it? The home form hasn't really declined throughout the course of the season, so that's, I think, that's going for them.
Yeah.
Fulham against Liverpool, and a surprise result of the weekend, 3-2 to Fulham. We both went for 2-1 wins to Liverpool, and they go 1-0 up pretty early on, 15 minutes gone with McAllister.
Great goal.
Really good goal, and you're thinking, all right, this is going to be another routine victory for Liverpool, but Marco Silva and Fulham said absolutely not, and they scored 3 goals, bang, 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 quick fire goals. Ryan Sessegnon, what the hell is going on with him? He's scoring every week at the moment. Muniz, again, with another goal. And they're 3-1 up before half-time. And you're thinking, what the hell is going on with Liverpool? Over the course of the last month, basically, they've gone out the FA Cup. Well, the FA Cup was a bit before that, but they went out the Champions League. They're not playing well in the Premier League. And they just seem to have fallen off a cliff recently.
Yeah, they're struggling to kind of keep up their unbelievable standards they set for a lot of this season. And it's actually very similar when you look back to last season. Really similar trajectory.
Yeah.
Up until like April time or maybe March time, they were flying and doing great. They were top and they were doing great and they looked like well in the title race. And literally pretty much like clockwork, at this point in the season, they did start to falter, started to look very tired and started to fall away. And by the end of the season, they were well out the title race. Now, last season, they did still finish on, mid 80 points, I think, which wasn't enough to stay in the title race, but obviously they finished 3rd. Now, this season, mid 80 points is probably going to win them the league. And I think that's obviously the drop off of Arsenal and Man City is going to help with that. So, as much as it's going to be impressive and achievement for Arne Slot to win the league and for Liverpool to do that, I actually don't see them being that much better than they were last season. It's just like Liverpool's last season is probably good enough to win the league this season. That's probably how I see it.
True.
But they have been definitely stumbling in recent weeks, and this was a really poor performance, and they completely looked out of sorts. I definitely think they missed Trent at right back as well. His incisiveness. I think Salah doesn't look the same player without Trent. I really do, because what was so imperative for Liverpool when Trent and Salah with that link up is they would win the ball, and Trent immediately looks for Salah. And because he's so good with his passing, he literally puts it on a plate for Salah to get on the ball and run in one-on-one situations. Now, without that, all of a sudden, Salah's getting the ball and he's got 2 or 3 defenders ahead of him instead of just the one, and he's being a lot less effective. And I think Salah's had a massive drop-off in recent weeks, and I think Liverpool are definitely missing not having Trent around, and that's maybe why the results are turning. But I still think, obviously, they're 11 points clear. Thankfully, for them, Arsenal didn't win and dropped even more points. So I do think they'll probably stumble their way to the title. I do see them having more drop points. But I think with, 7 games to go, they're 11 points clear. So I think they need 4 wins and they're done. So they'll pick up 4 wins. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, I'm looking at their fixtures now. So West Ham at home next game. I mean, West Ham can't buy a win at the moment. So you do expect them to win that game. However, if West Ham do have a one-off game where it just clicks for them, it's a possibility that they take away a draw or something, but probably a win for Liverpool. Leicester, there is no chance. Even a worse Liverpool side ain't losing to that Leicester team. Tottenham, they're going to beat Tottenham. Chelsea away is going to be hard for Liverpool. Arsenal at home is probably going to be hard for Liverpool. Brighton away is going to be hard, and also Palace is also going to be hard last game of the season. So they do have, in the next, if they need to win the next 3 games, and then it's probably done.
Yeah, I think that if they win their next 3, they might be champions by that point.
Yeah.
There's a chance that either they have a guard of honour against Tottenham or they can win the league against Tottenham. Don't know what you'd prefer.
I'll take either of them.
Take
to be honest.
either.
But what I'm saying is that if they do slip up in their next 3 games, I think it could be a slight possibility. But that only if Arsenal win all their games.
Well, who do Arsenal have? Well, first we've got Madrid. They've got Brentford at home. Probably should win that. Then they do have Ipswich. And then Palace at home. Bournemouth at home. And they also have Southampton in there. So they do have a fairly kind run in. But as well, they do have to go to Anfield and probably win. Yeah. And even if they draw that, it's a bad result. So look, I still think there's pretty much no chance they do it.
Yeah, look, I think it's obviously that it's stacked massively in Liverpool's favour. I'm just saying, with the way Liverpool are playing now, it's just put it a slight doubt into it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that only if Arsenal would have won on the weekend, which they didn't.
Yeah, and I think Arsenal will probably be kicking themselves in recent weeks. Probably a few chances to get points and put a bit of pressure on Liverpool.
They could have really won this league this year.
Losing to West Ham at home and things like that. And it's really cost them. And I think Liverpool will probably win the league, I reckon, this season with the lowest points tally for a while.
Yeah. Tottenham against Southampton, 3-1 to Spurs. Sim went for 3-1. I went for 2-1. Getting that last-minute penalty to grab the 3-pointer. And, look, wasn't the greatest game of football by any stretch of the imagination. Spurs played well in the first half, got the 2 goals, potentially could have been 3 with the offside goal. And, second half was the most drab affair I've seen in a very long time. I was standing there on the south stand and I was like, I just wanted the game to be over. I was like falling asleep. It was so bad.
I think both sets of players also wanted the game to be over. Or looked like one team just were concentrated on Thursday and the other team were just waiting to go down and have that relief off their shoulders that they're not fighting to stay up anymore, because both teams looked like they just wanted to end the game in that second half. It was a really drab affair. Tottenham were decent in the first half without being spectacular. Got a couple of goals from Brennan, which takes him to 11 Premier League goals this season, which is a pretty impressive haul. Second half, terrible game. Southampton gave themselves a little bit of hope with that goal from Fernandes late on, but Tottenham wrapped up with the Tell penalty. Bit of a discussion between Johnson and Tell. Johnson wanted the penalty for his hat-trick. Tell wanted it to get his first Premier League goal. Tell went one out, and he got the goal, took it confidently. Tottenham will take the points, but it just wasn't a great performance or game.
Yeah, moving on to the
next.
And
Southampton officially relegated.
Officially, yeah, that's true. They're the earliest team ever to be relegated in the Premier League. Do you reckon this could and the manager left? So both managers left after both Spurs games this season for Southampton.
So for Southampton, the breaking point was losing to Tottenham
every time.
If you lose to Spurs, that's it. You can't stay on.
But in terms of Southampton, now they're kind of gone, and the shackles could be off a little bit. Maybe they could start picking up a few more points.
Yeah, depending on what their running is. It'll be interesting to see how they react. Maybe. They got Villa next. They got then Southampton, West Ham, Fulham. They have that game away at Leicester. Then they got Man City, Everton, and Arsenal. I think it all comes down to that Leicester game, whether they avoid being the worst ever Premier League team.
I think Southampton beat Leicester. I'm looking at Leicester, and they are just shocking.
Oh, you better hope.
Really are.
You
shocking.
better hope. If it's a draw and they end on 11, which is level with Derby, is that just void? Are we voiding it?
It goes down to goal difference.
They're minus 51. Actually, I don't know what Derby were. Bloody hell.
Let's go to the other derby this weekend, which was Manchester United against Manchester City. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 1-1. Did finish 0-0, so we both get a point on this one. This was a terrible game as well. Like, Man City were so bad, so toothless. They just could not break down Man U. And you get so excited for these games, and they're just such an anti-climax, isn't it?
No goals. And Manchester derby, usually one of the derbies which usually provides good entertainment, and it was a drab affair. It actually sparked a big conversation. I think Gary Neville was talking about it on Sky Sports, about has the Premier League just become too boring now after this result? Like, is this result kind of the kind of where we've led to, where we're having a Manchester derby in kind of the late of the season where everything should be on the line, and it's a really boring 0-0 where both teams barely lay a glove on each other. Very systematic, very robotic, and very little created in the game. Both teams looking like they don't want to make any mistakes. That's what they're concentrating on, and that's what led to it. And it sparked this big conversation, I guess, on social media about Premier League at the moment. Has it just become too boring?
I don't think so. I think like this game was obviously specifically very boring, but just look at the other derby this weekend of Brighton and Crystal Palace. That was an unbelievable game, and that's what derbies are all about. And I just feel like both teams, Manchester United and Man City, just needed to take a bit more risk and actually just go for it a little bit more. I think this game specifically was just way too tactical. And that's what you're going to get with Pep Guardiola against Ruben Amorim, though, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think people tend to kind of fantasize the past in terms of how football was, and football's nowhere near what it used to be and all these kind of things. And on a certain extent, with the introduction of VAR and the rise in ticket prices and all this stuff, there is definitely an element of the game that has been lost in the past. But in terms of the pure entertainment of what we're seeing on the pitch, in terms of the quality, like people just forget that we also had very boring games back in the early 2000s as well. There wasn't always goal fests, and we still get some very good games now. So I do think it's a lot of it's perception and nostalgia. But I do think obviously there is an element of truth to it, because I do think VAR is definitely killing a lot of the excitement, especially with scoring goals. I do think the rise in ticket prices and kind of you're getting crowds now, especially in the Premier League, where a lot of them are tourists and a lot of them are kind of day trip fans. And obviously, I'm not saying they don't have a right to go there, but I'm just saying the reality is with a lot of these fans, it kind of when you're not having those die-hard fans in there and a lot of them are being priced out the game, it does kind of kill the atmosphere for a lot of these games. You're not getting the same kind of intense atmosphere that maybe you used to get back in the day. So I do think there's definitely elements of truth to it. And also I do think definitely football, there is more of a kind of emphasis on tactics and team play rather than individual flair and things like that. That's definitely true. But I think within that context, you still get a lot of really great games and a lot of really great stuff. But I think, people just, when people think back to how football was, obviously you're not going to remember a 0-0 from 2004, are you? You're just going to remember the great games.
Remember the good games, yeah.
Exactly. That's what you're going to remember. So when you think back at it, football used to be so great, but that's because you're only remembering the great games. Yeah. There was a lot of boring games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But you've got to say that the title race this year is probably the most boring title race we've seen.
Oh yeah, this Premier League season is the title race and the relegation battle.
Both of them
the
have
worst.
been nailed on for ages.
But this could be the most exciting Champions League race I guess we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about from Arsenal down, it's been brilliant, and the story of Nottingham Forest, and there has been some really exciting things happening this season. Just the title race and the Premier and the relegation have been a bit boring.
Which is where the most is on the line.
Yeah. Leicester against Newcastle finish off 3-0. We both went for 2-0, and it was 2-0 after 5 minutes or whatever. I mean, Newcastle, Leicester are just shot to pieces. They really are. They haven't scored a goal for 8 games or something like that, which I think is a Premier League record.
It's a Premier League record, the amount of losses in a row without scoring.
Which is mad. Their last goal scored was against Tottenham. The last point that they picked up was against Tottenham. In the last 17 games, they've lost every single one apart from Tottenham. And this Leicester team and Ruud van Nistelrooy, I think they're the worst team currently in the Premier League right now. They really are so poor. Newcastle just found it so easy to break them down. Jacob Murphy was having a field day. Harvey Barnes was looking good. Didn't even need Isaac to chip in for anything, and it was just an easy day for Newcastle at the office.
Yeah, and I don't know how they're feeling, Leicester fans, right now, but they just should have stuck with Cooper, because this Van Nistelrooy appointment has been nothing short of an absolute disaster. Yeah, I don't know what they're waiting for. He's done at this club, unless they're thinking he might be good in the Championship. Maybe that's what they're thinking. It's worth just sticking with him because he can probably get them promoted again, and which is not completely ridiculous. But I also probably think Cooper's probably better suited to getting them back out the Championship than Van Nistelrooy. I think Vardy as well. He had such a good start to the season, but I think his legs have just left him now.
He's the only one though that's even remotely a threat for Leicester.
Yeah,
literally the only one. I was watching it yesterday. I think Vardy had about 3 or 4 shots on goal. No one else was having a go. He was the only one. So I think, you can talk about Vardy all you want, but it's everyone else that is not keeping up their standards.
But I look at that team of Leicester. It's not like the worst team.
Well,
they've got some good players there. I look at that and I think that doesn't look to me like the worst team in Premier League history, or playing like it right now. But they should be doing at least a bit more. Not scoring a goal in 8.
It's a Championship side.
But not scoring a goal in eight games is nuts.
It's rubbish. It's totally rubbish. And The game
Still
was won by
scored a goal.
half time. Newcastle probably didn't even need to come out for that second half, and the game would have been won.
Yeah, they've just it's just been absolute disaster for Leicester, and they'll be relegated probably. How many points away from? So they're now 15 points away from.
It's done.
I know it's done, but I'm just wondering when they're going to be relegated. So it's 15 points, which is 5 games, and there's 7 games left.
Yeah.
So in 2 games' time, probably
yeah.
sooner. Yeah.
So with that, on top of that, Ruud van Nistelrooy falling out with players, falling out with Harry Winks now. Ollie Skip, we thought Ollie Skip was a good up-and-coming player. He can't even get into this Leicester team.
Buyback
Which is
clause?
mad.
Yeah, so he's not worked out for him whatsoever. The 2 Tottenham boys not really doing the job
Winks,
for
first
Leicester.
half of the season, everyone was saying England call up.
He was man of the match against Spurs.
He had a few man of the match displays in this first half of the season. He was actually playing really well, but he's fallen out with Ruud because of some sort of discrepancy over where he lives and because Ruud wanted him to stay at the lodge or something for an extra night on match days or pre-match days, and Winks says, nah, I'm going back down to London.
Fabian Schär, inches away from scoring a goal from inside his own half.
What a hit that was. That was incredible. Went all the way up and then smashed against the bar, and then Jacob Murphy, credit to him because he carried on his run and he was there to put it in the back of the net.
Credit to Newcastle, won the cup and now they're on a run in the league with 4 wins in the last 5. So credit to them, keeping up their standard in the league where a lot of teams would have fallen off.
Well,
and
they're Champions League.
They're 1 point behind. 1 point behind Chelsea. No, they're level on points. Level on points with Chelsea, just behind on goal difference. So right in the thick of it when it comes to that race.
When I'm looking at the teams on form, right, the form teams in the league for the top 4 race. So let's say, for argument's sake, Chelsea, Newcastle, Man City, and Villa are the ones in the race. I'm looking at Villa and Newcastle to take those spots.
At the moment, they're the teams in the best form, but it can switch very quickly because the other 2 are still in Europe.
Yeah. All right, star men. Sim went for Dom Solanke. Very poor performance from him. And I went for Sade. Did he even play Sade? I don't even know.
I'm not sure if he played, but none of us got anything, unfortunately.
Yeah, which leaves still quite a hefty gap, Sim.
Yeah, I was looking to close it this week. Didn't quite work, but 7 games, lots to play for, and a lot of star men to pick. So never say never.
Not a lot. You're talking about what?
7.
7 star men to pick.
Yeah, there's a lot of goals to be scored there.
There are a lot of goals to be scored, but I don't know, man. I think the writing's on the wall for you.
Not yet. Never give up. Never give in.
All right, well, that is it from us from Review the Prem. Let us know your thoughts on the weekend's action in the comment section below. We'll see you next time.